Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to At the Heart of the Matter here with the Colorado Health Foundation. I'm just keeping an eye on our participant numbers here, and I see lots and lots of folks popping in. So welcome. As you get settled and are ready and able, please go ahead and share your name and the location that you're zooming in from in the chat. We'd also love it if you wouldn't mind sharing a couple of words or a couple of names of individuals who you feel like are power players in the work that you're doing across the state of Colorado. So I'm just going to check the chat here and make sure that I see some things popping in. All right, folks. Well, again, welcome to At the Heart of the Matter. We're really excited to have everyone with us this afternoon. Again, if you've just joined us, please share your name and location in the chat, as well as a couple of words or names of individuals who come to mind when you think about power players in the world, in the work that you're doing here across the state. So we are going to be keeping everything very interactive throughout the event this afternoon. We're going to be using the chat function for all of our communication with all of you. And when you're using the chat function today, just make sure that you're selecting the drop-down option that's labeled everyone before you hit send. If you don't do that, then we're not all going to be able to see what you have to say. Oh yes, I see you all now. You are popping your names in. I see a note here that we don't see an option for everyone. So if you go to the 2 in your chat box, you're going to see a drop down that says hosts and panelists or everyone. So that's where you want to select everyone if you want everyone to see the option. Okay, well, again, welcome, folks. I am going to actually turn things over for just a few minutes to our community language cooperative team. We're going to be offering simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish for our event today. And our community language cooperative team is an amazing partner of ours here at the Colorado Health Foundation. They partner with us on all of our events and convenings, as well as our overall commitment to language justice. And so B from CLC is going to be sharing a little bit about that commitment to language justice, as well as some explanation about that interpretation feature in Zoom. So B, I am going to turn things over to you if you are ready.
Thank you so much, Karen. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is B. Torres. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I will be your interpreter along with my colleague, Alejandro Arrieta, and we're here from the Community Language Cooperative. We want to thank you so much for your commitment to language justice. Language justice means that we should all be able to speak and express ourselves and understand in the language of our hearts. Therefore, Alejandro and I will be providing simultaneous interpretation in English and in Spanish. I'll repeat these instructions in Spanish, and then we will activate our interpretation function. At that time, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a globe icon. Please click on that icon and select either English or Spanish as the language of your heart. I do want to remind folks that everyone must select a language to ensure a fluid conversation this afternoon. Please also speak at a conversational pace so that Alejandro and I are able to provide an accurate rendition of your message. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Vi Torres, mi pronombre es ella. Y estoy aquí con mi colega Alejandro Arrieta por parte de la Cooperativa Comunitaria de Lenguaje. Nosotros seremos sus intérpretes de inglés al español y español al inglés. Estamos aquí para agradecerles a ustedes su compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje, lo cual significa que todas las personas tenemos el derecho de hablar y ser escuchadas en el idioma de nuestro corazón. En un momento activaremos la función de interpretación en Zoom y aparecerá un icono de globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Asegúrese de hacer clic en ese icono y elija inglés o español como el idioma de su corazón. Si usted es bilingüe en ambos idiomas, no es necesario escoger solo uno. Y les recuerdo que por favor hablen a un ritmo de conversación para poder brindar una interpretación precisa de su mensaje. Muchas gracias, ya comenzaremos. Thank you very much. We can activate the interpretation function now.
Thank you, B. Yes, I see the interpretation feature on the bottom of my screen. If anyone has any questions about that, please go ahead and send us a chat and we will do our best to help you out. So again, welcome to everyone. Looks like we have about 136 and growing individuals with us this afternoon. We're really excited to have everyone spend an hour and a half or so. My name is Taryn Ford. I'm the Senior Director of Communications here at the Colorado Health Foundation. and just have a few opening remarks and some housekeeping items before I turn things over for our event discussion this afternoon. So for those of you who may be a little less familiar with the Colorado Health Foundation, we are a statewide funder and social change maker with a mission that's focused squarely on bringing health and reach for all Coloradans. And we do the work that we do in a lot of different ways, primarily by engaging closely with communities across the state through investing and grant making, of course, through our public policy and advocacy work, through different types of capacity building, and of course, through moments like this one today, where we're convening together, gathering together with folks like you to explore complex issues and matters that are related to inequity and health. And I'm excited to introduce our second 2023 virtual event in our At the Heart of the Matter series. This is an event series that we stood up at the beginning days of the COVID pandemic, and we've been able to continue this amazing series, which features our president and CEO, Karen McNeil-Miller, in conversation with leaders and experts of all different types, community members, to talk about the impacts of systemic racism on our health and opportunities in life. And back in February, we launched this year's series with an event called People Plus Power Plus Equals Possibilities, I should say. And today is really a follow-up to that conversation that we started back then. We're going to be really looking at how power players from all over Colorado are creating change in their communities by thinking differently and more broadly about how power and local leadership intersect. And Karen is joined by an amazing panel of leaders from across the state. We've got folks from Glenwood Springs, from Colorado Springs, Pueblo, as well as Grand Junction. So just a few final housekeeping and accessibility notes for all of you. So if you've just joined in, please go ahead and share your name and location in the chat. We're going to be using the chat for all questions and comments and communication throughout the course of the event. So please send anything that way. If you want everyone in the group to be able to see what you have to say, just make sure that you're selecting the drop-down option in the chat function that is labeled everyone. So, because we do have lots and lots of folks joining us today, we've obviously muted audio to minimize any background noise, but we are also not going to be hosting a specific Q&A period because we just want you to share your questions throughout the course of the event. We're keeping an eye on that chat, so we'll do everything we can to make sure that we get your questions answered. And then, of course, we just also ask that if you have any technical difficulties to send us a note via the chat, and we'll do everything we can to help you out. So lastly, well, actually not lastly, but almost lastly, we did just hear a little bit about interpretation. We have our partners from Community Language Cooperative with us today, helping with our simultaneous interpretation with English and Spanish. It is really important that if you haven't done so already, that you go ahead and choose your preferred language from the interpretation menu, which you should see on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Because no matter if you wish to engage in English or Spanish, you definitely need to select a language preference unless you're just fully bilingual. And again, if you need any support on that, just send us a chat. We are going to be recording today's conversation in English and Spanish, so you will be getting those recordings in your inbox in the coming days, along with a short evaluation survey that we ask that you take just a few minutes to complete. We really value your feedback and thoughts, and we use that feedback to design events like this. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Franklin Cruz. Franklin is a personal favorite of mine and a past collaborator with us here at the Colorado Health Foundation. Franklin is a queer Latin poet who was born in Idaho, raised in Texas, and polished, as he says, in Denver. Franklin works at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. He's also an MC, a dancer, and a poet, and his work encompasses self-love, immigration, culture, nature, and so much more. And I'm thrilled to hand things off to Franklin. Thanks again so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here and having me here. Thank you all for being here. I'm coming from Denver, Colorado, the unceded lands of the Cheyenne, the Ute, and the Arapaho, and 48 other tribes who used to also travel through these areas. Pronouns are he, they, or el, ella if you're in Spanish. And I have a poem to share with y'all today. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, you can always chat with me in the chat. I can look at it afterwards once I'm done presenting because I'll be reading the poem. But thank you all so very much, and I hope you enjoy. This poem is called Before That. I'm always trying to remember where I come from and who I am, because I'm a pretty eccentric person. But before that, I'm just trying to be my most professional self and utilize this wealth of knowledge I've collected. But before that, I'm just a busybody, always playing rhythms with my feet so that everywhere I go is a dance. Always singing a song so that my journey is a jam sesh. I am a soulful, big bone swing band. But before that, I'm just an hermano, preoccupied with my baby sister's laughter, making sure she's cackling Mexicana milagrosa, happy baby brown girl bubbly. But before that, I'm just a queer, built of the sear bones and epitomes of Spartans, who started wars only after they made love to each other. Because to them, a wife's kindness wasn't exactly battle ready, but a comrade's devotion sure as hell was. But before this, I'm just the kitchen table inside of everyone's hearts. How we nourish each other with the food from the oven, shoving all the Sunday fun day into our belly. I love peanut butter and jelly, because it's one of the closest memories I have of me and my nephew, and the sticky mash of summer cartoons. But before this, I am Latino. Explico, I'm a chico niño, still too young to understand why I can't be loud in Spanish, why I'm best tolerated in English, before people like Trump try to tell me that I am a criminal. With all the will to demoralize the fabric of American values, Setback told we plagiarized our identity, but he has never read my ancestors' codices. This, y'all, is how poison seeds get planted in both kids and me and my parents and the elders. We a whole forest of robbed trees, hacked, uprooted. But before this, I'm saluted for a flexible tongue, shunned though when I talk bilingual, as if a single one language can explain why we still use race as a target. But let's go ahead and get far from this, to a time when we didn't have laws to obey that were meant to keep us enslaved, sovereign of the laws of white men who never intend to get off the podium, as pandemonium makes us forget how far we've come, because before this, I was a Raramuri racist in my great-grandmother's maternal mountains. I was a Spanish paternal blood my great-grandfather released like the running of the bulls. But even before this, I was just Cro-Magnon, standing up against a whole mammoth with nothing but my spear, my kin, believing we would win. But even before this, I was Australopithecus. See how many of you can actually make sense of this? As a species, we stood up, lost our footing, always putting our feet in our mouths. Didn't we notice the sounds that we make? How racial slurs actually sound like a rattlesnake on the ground? Did you just ignore the caution? To think before talking, to look before walking. Have we forgotten the caves we crawled in? Because before this, we were prey. So instead, we prayed. We who know how to make good with our magic. Tragic how we forgot the gods within, how to turn pain and lust into faith and trust. We who burned all the Palo Santo wood. Because before this, we just withstood whatever this world will try to hurl at our face with this pace like it's trying to kill me and all of my siblings. But even before this, I know I was just God's tear, set down right here. This is the language of turmoil. We who turn all the soil in our poems to plant the seeds to make the oxygen we breathe. So before this, I am a wind mystic. Before this, I'm not gonna give myself over to stories that ignore me. I have always been this big. I have always navigated myself. Typhoon, I have not and will not forget that I am my own monolith. So before this, I just had to take the risk and the stakes to let you know that I know the stakes of losing this. So I cradle this, because before this, I'm just trying to understand where I come from and who I am for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Franklin. Thank you so very much. That was very powerful. Come back on screen, Franklin. Thank you. There you go.
Sorry.
You'll get to see in the chat just all the love you were getting. And
Thank
I don't
you.
think, listening to you, I don't think that's eccentric at all. I think that just makes you human.
Right, because eccentricity is just a biological thing. And I feel like vacation makes you want to be very not eccentric.
Yes. Do you have a companion piece called After This?
I probably should. Like, what's the world without some future and some dreaming?
There you go. So anything you'd like to say about that piece and what brought you to it, or what brought it to you?
Yeah, so I call most of my pieces downloads because as a person who's very spiritual in the Mexica danza ways, I understand that creativity lives and then is brought to humans as a blessing, and then we just get to like interpret it. I got that download. It was very much in the line of a lot of folks not knowing how to read me for my culture and my ethnicity. Within like the Spanish speaking community, everyone thought I was a native person from the northern side. And then from the northern side, you know, everyone was just like, oh, are you like Colombian? Are you Mexican? Are you Venezuelan? What are you? And then I think as a Homo sapien and as a biological person and a nerd and all of that, I was like, yes, I am these things, but I am so much more. So I think one of my favorite questions to ask after any poem that I do, and this is something that I teach, is what did you just learn about me? And then I
learned you sitting here today represent thousands of years of history.
Yeah,
and you carry it, and you carry it proudly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my way of, and then the other thing I like to say is, imagine how long we would have had to have a conversation in order to cover everything I covered in that poem.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I love poetry. It affords
how much history you need to know.
Yeah.
Real history.
I really wonder how many people know Australopithecus. That's like a little golden nugget for the nerdy folks and the science folks.
I did not, that did not resonate with me. I'm unaware.
Yeah, it's if anyone knows it, it's Lucy, from the like history books, like one of the in our hominid life, the moment where we really stood up. And so Australopithecus is one of the first hominids to really be standing erect and like just all the way up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing us your gift and your joy.
Thank y'all for having me.
You're very welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope it's as beautiful where you are as it is here in south of Denver, here in Centennial, Colorado, even though I am perfectly enjoying the rain because everything is so green and I love that. I am going to ask our panelists to go ahead and join us. There we go. And so thank everyone that's participating to join us in this continuation this year, 2023, of our exploration of power. We had our first At the Heart of the Matter, as Taryn mentioned, with Eric Liu. We'll come back and talk about that in a minute. And now we have this featuring folks here from Colorado. We don't have to get a national speaker to bring in power players. They are our neighbors, they are our colleagues, they are our friends, and we are so glad to have them here. And then this leads us into our big event around power, which is going to be our symposium this summer in Keystone. Hope you've registered already, because I don't even know if there are any slots left, but we're going to continue this conversation, and I'm going to ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves and their organizations to kind of get us started. I'm just going to go in the order you appear on my screen, and that puts Mona first.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mona Highline. I'm here in Grand Junction, Colorado. I'm the founder and CEO of the Joseph Center, a nonprofit community outreach organization.
Thank you, Mona. You want to tell us a little bit about what you do there?
I think the question is, what do we not do? So we work with families and individuals who are in the crossroads between parenting and homelessness. And by that, we've allowed the community to dictate its needs. And from that, we have 10 programs now that support the transition of people from actually being on the streets to being into affordable housing or whatever needs that they need. So we're basically a bridge to get individuals and families who are hitting that rough moment to get from A to B.
Thank you, Mona. Terrell.
Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Terrell Brown, the founder of Hillside Connection. We're located in Southeast Colorado Springs. Our mission is designed to leverage sport to create pathways to opportunities for kids. When I speak towards kids, these are underserved kids, boys and girls, grades 1st through 12th. And we do this via a 5-tiered approach towards youth development. Sports clinics, getting them off the streets into a safe environment. That 2nd tier is enrichment activities, getting them out of the Southeast quadrant to see something, that's bigger than themselves. That 3rd tier is community engagement. How do you give back? It's not always about what you receive. And then that 4th tier is competitive play opportunities. And we have a laundry list of folks that we are connected with. We're not Pikes Peak United Way by any means, but we do have family support services that we help direct people to empower the household. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do in Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Terrell. Alex. Alex, I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Is it just me? Yes, there you go. Okay. Hey, Alex, hold on one second. We're still getting a lot of messages that people can't hear you. So let me ask, I'm gonna go ahead and let Yesenia introduce herself and then see if some of our staff behind the scenes can help satisfy this problem. Oh, I hear people can hear you on the English channel only. So switch to the English channel, folks, if you aren't. But let me give people a chance to do that. And then Alex will come back. Sorry, Yesenia.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Yesenia Villascochea, soy una de las organizadoras de Center for Health Progress. Estoy aquí en Pueblo y ¿quién es Center for Health Progress? Center for Health Progress builds collective power among ordinary people. We're fighting against the for-profit healthcare system so we can have a democratic control healthcare system that actually allows all people to have the care that we all need in our lives. We are based in Pueblo, Denver, and in Fort Morgan. We have 5 organizations, 5 teams throughout the state. Healthcare organizing team in Denver. We have folks in Pueblo and in Fort Morgan, and also a political strategy organizing team and a communications organizing team. We are in the final stages of becoming affiliate of People's Action, a national organization focusing on the methodology in which the same methodology that we use to organize, which is building power, that came out of the Black liberation from during the civil rights movement. This is not, it's not advocacy or mobilizing or activism. It's rigor, discipline. It's going back to the places in our history where we see that this has worked. And we are working with people, day-to-day people, ordinary people, working moms, caregivers, doctors, nurses, people who are eager to stand into their power and change into changes in our communities to get access to the healthcare that we need and deserve.
Thank you, Yesenia. So I'm going to come back to Alex, and for those of you, if you're checking the chat, there is an interpretation button down at the bottom of your screen, or depending if you're on your iPad, at the top of your screen, between record and raise hand that says interpretation. You need to click English if you want to be able to hear Alex in English. All right. Now, Alex, back to you. Start over. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. I think they're still working on it behind, but we'll press on. So we're talking about power today. And as I said, we had Eric Liu earlier this year, who's the CEO of Citizens University. And he talked about how he views power, and he even breaks it down to the power of the individual, that if I can connect with Yesenia around an issue we have, and Yesenia can connect with Terrell, and Terrell can connect with Mona, that one person nugget can begin a movement by just moving their voice through individuals. But we want to ground ourselves in how you think about power. So let me start with that. Terrell, how do you think about power, and how would it show up? How would we know by how it shows up in your work?
Definitely. I think power starts with self-evaluation, never forgetting where you come from and understanding the deeper meaning behind the work in which you're doing. I think us as individuals, we can undermine ourselves in our storytelling and not understand that our story can impact the lives of others. And with the work that I'm doing today, I'm a firm believer that you find your purpose right through your pain. I was actually cut from my Division I basketball team going into my senior year at Montana State. And it's ironic that I returned back home after working in the world of philanthropy to use sport as a tool to mobilize underprivileged kids in the community in which I came from. So just understanding, through your pain, you find your purpose, and through that purpose, right, lies true power. And we all can have, a say in, the impact that we have in our local community. So yeah, that's a little bit about the way in which I view it.
Okay, thank you. Yesenia.
I think about power not as a feeling, but as taking action. There was a point in my life where I felt powerless, and through growing my knowledge and understanding of what power really is really, I understand that it's taking action, right? It's just not thinking that I'm not powerless or that I have power. It's an action, is what I do. And I also understand that power is, in order for me to build power with somebody else, I have to know their self-interest. I have to know their values. I have to know what they are interested in the same way that I did, right? Like when I was first learning how to stand in my power and the level of power that I have, and the things that we can create and change through collective power.
Thank you. Alex. And Alex, let me follow up with you on that. Have you always believed that and acted that way, or did you have to come to that realization in your life? And Mona, I'll get to you in a moment, but Terrell, I saw you nodding vigorously as Alex was speaking. So what was going on in your head with that?
I was just thinking about the people in Southeast Colorado Springs that we serve, right? They don't necessarily feel as if they have a voice. And that's what the core of what our work is doing, is empowering kids. I think true change starts with kids and giving them the best drug of them all, right? That's confidence. That's the ability to act. So through our programming, that's what we're trying to instill in kids through sports. So when they go through those challenges in life, right, identity crisis, trying to figure out what their niche is in the world, that strong foundation of resilience has already been laid to where they can take that leap of faith. So yeah, I can resonate with what he was saying, and it just hit my heart a little bit.
Great, thank you, Terrell. And I saw one of the our staff posted. Certainly put any comments, questions you have inside the chat. I will keep look at that and try to bring those into the conversation if possible. So Mona, how do you think about power?
You know, listening to everybody else, I 100% agree. But for me, I had to overcome all the negatives. So I had to be empowered by coming against everything that everyone said I couldn't do or what I couldn't be, and find that within myself. What is my purpose here? And then when I came into agreement with who I am, then I was able to move forward. And I think that's what propels, and that's where power comes from. You know, our motto here at the Joseph Center is empowering lives with purpose. And so not only are we doing it within ourselves, we're doing that with our guests who come in here, and we're saying, you know, hundreds every month, but how do we continue in that? And that's the same concept. We come against not what you don't have, not what you can't be, but what are we looking at? So that power comes from getting rid of the negative first.
And how do you all connect the work you do, the organizing you do, to health? Like, how is it helping to improve the health of the folks you serve? Yesenia.
All of the work that we do is around health, is access to health, right? And through the work that we do, it's allowing people to see how amazing they are, that they can stand into their own power, that they have power, that we have collective power. One of the biggest things that I've seen, Karen, is at least within the immigrant community, and I felt it for many, many years, that I was playing I was playing in the victim mentality, that I did not have power, that I did not speak enough English, that I did not feel fit the mold. In the societies that I had. That has definitely pushed me to build my own power, but also to show people, you know, that they have power, that they are the only people who can advocate for what they believe, that they can be the changers, that if a system is not working for them, if the healthcare system is not working for them, they have the autonomy, they have the power to speak up. That, you know, understanding concepts is just a piece that we can actually change systems if we understand how they work. That is power in itself.
Thank you, Yesenia. Mona, what do you think about that?
She's got me crying too, because I instantly, I can instantly relate to where she's coming from. And, you know, a part of that is, like Yesenia said, you know, understanding that you do have power and bringing that across to individuals who have been stripped of no hope, no purpose, no identity. And then we're trying to pour back into them. But it's something you have to understand, that we walked out first. I can't pour something into somebody that I haven't experienced myself. So I went through all of this in order to empower these other individuals. And then to go back to your question, you know, how are we putting health into the situation with our guests, the people we work with every day? Health is mind, body, and soul. It's not just the medical part of it. It's the mental health of it. It's the emotional part of it. It's the way they feel about themselves. It's the way how they feel accepted by our community. It's the way how they're treated when they come in. One of my biggest things with my staff, I don't care who or what or wherever they come from, they're always treated with dignity. And above everything else, they have to leave here with hope. They're going to leave here with services and food and medical assistance. They get all of that. But the biggest thing is that they feel hopeful again, that we have empowered them enough to take the next step so they can have successful lives and not be held down by what society says or what the community says, these people or individuals or even myself, who we are and what we're not. And so again, that being part of the healthy is the whole person. And that's what I always say. We want to put whole people back into our community. So it's not just the physical, it's everything.
Mona, I want to lift up what you were saying, and that, you know, language and mindset matter. And so what a difference it would feel like to be received as a guest, as opposed to being received as a participant or a client or some other word that makes them, that is non-humanizing. And so
Yes.
I think that's, I've always believed that, and I know you all do as well, but it's important. But the dignity piece, how do you leave people with their dignity at the end of the day? Alex, how about you? You know, I remember visiting, I think it was in Mesa County actually, with homeowners and renters in a mobile home community, and they showed me the letter that they received from the landlord every year that says, don't drink the water. And that caught me off. And Terrell, did you want to react to this one?
I think collaboration is important. I really believe no great thing is accomplished alone. And that's one thing that I'm learning along this process of creating something from inception and something that's having value in the community. It's coming with its challenges in the sense that a lot of our kids and families, they don't necessarily know where to go. and they don't have access to opportunities that other folks do have. So we can talk about the problem. I think it's time for all of us to find a solution. And I think we're doing that. And when I say we're doing that, that's a collective group of us doing it, right? You got Solid Rock, Ben Anderson, Joaquin Mobley at Community Works. Like all of us are in communication with each other. It can get better. But in order to create great change, I think that key word collaboration needs to be at the forefront as well.
Thank you. And there's a question in the chat from Maddie Holland. And I have been smiling throughout because I don't know if Maddie has figured out how to clone herself, but her name shows up about 18 times in the participant list. So I'm not sure how that's happening. But Maddie asked, how can we affirm and collaborate? Wait a minute, now I've got to slide back up. How can we confirm and collaborate? Well, sorry, I lost her. All right, Maddie, can you copy and paste and put your question back in? But I think it was how can we affirm and collaborate without falling into the scarcity mindset? Anyone want to? Thank you, Alex. Mona, did you want to get in on that question?
Oh, there's so many places that we could go with that. Thank you, Alex. So I do agree with him. That collaboration piece is very hard, especially with someone like me. Even though I'm not new to my community, I've been in Grand Junction 34 years. But I'm kind of the new kid on the block as far as the nonprofit world is concerned here. So that collaboration is not so easy for me coming in as new. Now, whether that has to do with my color or not, I have no idea. I would hope that it didn't, but there are parts of me that says maybe that is a barrier. But the collaboration piece, that's the key. We have to have it. And it's not like I'm not willing to do that. When I would say 50% of my staff were clients. And so, and that's something I'm very proud of, you know. And so when that's kind of the culture of the Joseph Center, collaboration is what we do, but there is resistance in that area. If I could be a little frank here and a little bold, that collaboration piece is key, but it's not as easier said than done.
I want to add something to that. I want to add that in order for you to get out of that scarcity mentality, you have to find allies within our work, within our nonprofits. Find people who have the same mission, who have the same vision, who want to go ahead and create actual power. who believe in that collectiveness is power, that working in collective is power. As an organization who is also a nonprofit, we in a period of 90 days, once we shift the model, our model to power building, to actual power building, we conducted in 90 days, conducted almost 1,000 one-on-ones with people in community, and identifying what is the common self-interest that we have with them. What is it that we want to work with each other to be able to create power? All of this scarcity mentality that did came up, right? But you have to identify it. I think that you have to identify people who are wanting to do the same work with you in order for you to build power, like create change. Is in the scarcity mentality, I think is put out there on purpose. And we are, as nonprofits, have played a lot because without the money, we know that we can't do the work, right? Power is organizing people, it's organizing money. And if we can't do that, if we can't organize people and we can organize money, we're fighting over the money instead of organizing around the money. How are we creating power?
And Yesenia, Pastor Ben Anderson from Colorado Springs, I'm sure Terrell knows, just made a comment. We have to collaborate without being territorial with our mission and goals. And, you know, do any of you have examples of how you've been able to do that?
I do. I don't. Okay, I'll wait for somebody else if somebody else wants to share. But you know, we are collaborating with UNE. UNE is in the same pathway, following the same model of power building. In Summit Together Colorado, we have been able to find what is their mission, what is their vision, what is our purpose. If our purpose is to create power, to create systemic changes, then we have to work with each other. And we actually set up one-on-ones with the meetings with other staff. We figured out what they're working on. We figured out what we're working on. We figured out how we can continue building power among ourselves, among our community, among our state. We go to trainings together. We push each other when we have limiting beliefs around the power that we have and the power that we want to build in our community. So yes, it's been a pleasure to actually find people who have the same beliefs, right? Like who have the same mission as you, who want to create change, who want to hold systems accountable for the work that they are doing and they're not doing. So yeah, it's been a privilege working and actually seeing collaboration with other nonprofits that are doing the same work as you.
Do any of you have experience with creating allies out of resistors or people who were just curious and agnostic?
I think with Hillside Connection, we do a great job at definitely understanding the strategic goals of the local school district, the city of Colorado Springs, and the local nonprofit community, and where can we help fill that void within their strategic goals to add value, right, to the kids. That's what it's about. We steer away from thinking about the dollar instantly, right? We care about impact. So our approach when we meet our partners is meeting them where they're at to where it's a mutually beneficial, relationship. And an example of that recently is with Harrison School District 2. I'm a dreamer, I'm a visionary. I'm like, we need to do a Hoopsters basketball league for boys and girls, and we need to have guest speakers, and we want all schools to be involved. I was able to meet with Wendy Burhansel, and she actually had the same strategic goal that I had. And now it's just a matter of bringing the resources to the table so the kids can look the part, the event can, stand the test of time, and we can make it happen. So that's kind of like our approach is meeting, partners where they are, how can relationships be mutually beneficial. And that Harrison School District 2 is just an example of many that we have.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And many of us actually have been around for a long time. I'm looking at like Hispanic Affairs that's been around for 30 years in the Western Slope, but there's actually more and more coming up through the Western Slope, but we haven't had sort of a regional strategy. And so how do we build power together as organizations that are like-minded, that have a vision for health equity? And so Voces Unidas has joined Hispanic Affairs and Latinx Alliance and Mountain Dreamers and a couple others, and really create for the very first time an actual coalition, a Western Slope Latino coalition, where like-minded organizations that are about health equity, that are about power building, that have a shared, sort of mission. How can we do better at collaboration regionally? Because many of the issues that are being debated in Denver or Washington, D.C., or the issues at the local level are impacting all of us in different and unique ways. But I think there's power in numbers and there's power in collaboration as well, because we can speak as a united voice, and it's no longer just one organization, it's now a collaborative.
And how have you've all talked about not having to wait for somebody to give you power, but to own the power you have. How do you help a community or group understand that even though they've been told and treated as if they are powerless and may even believe it themselves, how do you get them to believe that they are actually powerful? Mona, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that question, because it's one of the challenges that we have with every single person that comes in here. No matter what that need is, no matter where they're at in that time in their life. And I think for us, we build rapport with them. Number one, we build a relationship with them. And then as we do that, walls start coming down, and then we ask them, what is your dream? It's not just surviving, but let's go beyond that. So, we've seen our guests go back to college. We see them getting their dream jobs, and we support that. And our doors are always open to them. We have this ritual that every time someone gets a breakthrough, a house, a job, or anything, they have to ring this cowbell. And everybody just stops, no matter in the whole building. But it builds such it gives them such a pride for what they've done, and it just encourages all the other guests. One day I'm going to ring that bell. One day I'm going to ring that bell. And so it's whatever it takes. We have to get creative. We have to think outside the box. For each person, there's no cookie cutter process. You can't just, this work for this family or this work for this individual. We have to get to know that person. And then once we get to know them, then we can begin to encourage them. We've had domestic violence victims who were sitting on bachelor's and master's degree, and because they've been so belittled emotionally and mentally, that was the last thing that they would ever dream about, is using that degree for anything. That's the fun part for us. We get to come in and help them rebuild themselves, help them rebuild their lives, and and see them look at their accomplishments and knows that this is a plus. This is not a negative.
Great. And Yesenia, I know you have been doing this for a long time, so talk about that.
So I think the first thing is being the vehicle as an organization who can bring people together, right? We can bring people together with a vision. What is the vision? What is it, right? Identifying what problems do we have, first of all, because people come to you and feeling that they do not have power because they have problems. But once we start figuring out what what problem do we want to solve, and walk through steps with community so they can see that in reality, they are the change makers, that they have the power, right? That they have the voice, that the only thing that it takes is actually taking action. It's actually taking actions. Once you have the vision of what you want to change, we have an amazing group of organizing team people here in Pueblo, right? They have identified issues that they want to work on to be able to have a more fair systemic access to healthcare here in Pueblo. They have identified what issues they have, what issues we need to solve. They have chosen the campaigns. They have chosen what we want to work on. We have a lot of people who have had case denials from their insurance company. That is a problem in Pueblo. That is a problem in Colorado. How they are identifying those problems is because of their own lived experience. Having this place, being that place, and then allowing them to grow and working with them in their leadership development, investing as an organization in their leadership development. We forget that. We forget that as organizations, that a lot of our members feel that powerless because they don't have the skills to do the work. But guess what? Once they have the skills, once they have developed that and so yes, I can do it, they're unstoppable. They're unstoppable. And invest in the members, instead invest in the community, the same way that somebody once invested in us in our leadership development. I have so many mentors, I mean, I can't even count with my hands how many mentors I have, right? But investing in their leadership development is investing in our community, is investing in the power that we can have as community.
Thank you. Alex, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I loved what Yesenia is talking about, because that's sort of our language as well. As an organizer myself, you know, we start with small wins. I think once humans begin their journey and they start to see the change that they're creating on their own, they're unstoppable. And it reminds me of the quote by Cesar Chavez about, you know, once we begin a movement, you know, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are no longer afraid. And I think for us in organizing, it's those small wins, helping people connect to the low-hanging fruit in terms of their cause, the issue that they care mostly about, and start that journey. And once that's started, it is impossible to stop a people that are determined to make change for themselves.
Karen, I do want to add one piece that narrative, it has a big impact in the way that we see power. And it's time, you know, it's we at Center for Health Progress have been working on changing the narrative of how power is perceived and how power is, and who holds power and who doesn't hold power. So we've been working, we have another group of organizing members who are actually focusing on changing the narrative and making tests, taking tests, getting interviews, and doing the work in community to change the narrative. And whether we like it or not, policy people have a lot of power, have held a lot of power for way too long, right? And it is also a responsibility in building power that we hold those policy people accountable for what they say they're going to do around our healthcare systems and whether or not they are working. And we have the right to also run for political power and to step in those chairs and be in a place of decision making and really represent the values of the community. So I just wanted to bring those two things to the conversation.
Oh, thank you. Now, you all have been doing this work for a long time. Mona, I know you have a new nonprofit, but you've still been doing the work for a long time. How have you seen the power landscape in your community shift and change over time? Terrell, I'll start with you.
I think in Southeast Colorado Springs, you know, we have a lot of people in their own individual buckets that are creating change, that are having an impact. I know when we started about 7 years ago, Hillside Connection is volunteer driven. We're blessed to have a great group of volunteers who help, you know, us push the mission forward. Within that group of volunteers, every volunteer or adult has their own personal vested interest. And with us being Hillside Connection, we do try to align those folks with other nonprofits who are doing great work in the community. And it's a beautiful thing to see, you know, a lot of folks doing different things and coming together for the betterment of the kids and the families. So in Southeast, I'm seeing a lot of folks start to collaborate more than we ever had. It might be indirect sometimes. We are in great support of each other. And again, yeah, that's just a beautiful thing to see based on from where we were 7 years ago.
Mona.
Yeah, I want to add to that. We're seeing a big change and a shift, I think, too, here in Grand Junction, because we have so many new executive directors and leaders who are coming up, and we do collaborate and we're starting to work together. So I think as far as the shift of power, it's a slow shift. It's not that we just want to strip anybody of power, but there is a new breed coming up with fresh ideas, and they have a heart for collaboration. They have a heart to see each other succeed. And so with that, we're able to come together, we can empower each other. But yeah, there's a shift. It's a slow one, but it's happening.
Alex, how about you?
You know, I came to this valley when I was 9 years old from Mexico. And at the time when we were very few Latinas and Latino families in all of these valleys, to today where In 2023, we have elected the first Latina immigrant from the Western Slope to the State House of Representatives, Representative Elizabeth Velasco, where we have the first Latina school board member in one of the school districts, and another Latino in a nearby school district in the Central Mountain region, where just within the last 90 days, young people and their parents have called for accountability to their school districts in 3 different school systems across the Central Mountain region. The change is coming, the movement is here, and I think it's part of the organizing and the base building that was desperately needed in our region for us to reclaim our space, reclaim these seats of power, to make sure that in a civilized society, in a democracy, it reflects the people that live in that community. And so I'm just encouraged and hopeful for the future. There's still a lot of work to do, but I'm seeing a lot of great signs of progress.
Thanks. And Yesenia, how's it changing?
I cannot hear you, Karen.
I said, go ahead. How have you seen power shift and change in your community?
Oh my goodness, they're taking over. This model is working. This model is working in Pueblo, right? This model is working in the constituencies that we are organizing. This model works. People are actually being decision makers. People are telling us which campaigns to work on. This group of people are telling us who is the people who need to be making the changes. They're telling us what level of leadership development they want. They're telling us what we need. We are not guiding our work. Community is guiding our work. They are stepping into their power. They are powerful as they are. As an organization, becoming affiliates of People Power and learning a lot more of the work that they are doing and bringing it back to Colorado. We don't have it in Colorado quite yet, right? We have, it's going to be the very first year in 7 years that we've been trying to going to People's Power conference. We are taking 10 members beyond the staff. We are taking 10 members to build their power, to build their skills, to bring it back to Colorado, to duplicate what we are doing. And obviously, you know, funding is always a barrier, but we know that organizing people and organizing money is how we are going to create change. We have a goal to raise $30,000 so we can cover all of the expenses of 10 people who said, we want to go, we're ready. What are you all doing to get us there? We are doing it. We're organizing people. People are already getting organized, and it's just a matter of how do we organize money.
Thank you. There was a question earlier in chat that essentially said, how are funders and philanthropy either assisting or hindering your power building in community? And what could funders and philanthropy do more of, do less of? Now, I know you all got an answer to that, so come on with it. All right.
No, I think.
Oh, go ahead, Mama.
I was gonna say, we can all say more money. That's always a plus. Less, you know, I think that the funders and the philanthropists are doing their part, you know, and if it weren't for the funding, you know, we wouldn't exist, right? I mean, it would just take a lot longer to get there. So I'm thankful for the grants and the philanthropists that are there, the private and the foundations that we received. I think the hindrance would probably be, I really can't think of a hindrance at this point. I'm very grateful for the help that we do get.
And if you think of one, pop on back in. Terrell.
I think it's important for funders to understand who they're giving the money to, right? And to hold us accountable for doing the right work, right? I think there can be a gap, you know, missed when traditionally speaking, you know, some people just give the folks that they've been given to for years, right? Where others might be proactive and actually understand the inner workings behind a nonprofit's work. I think there's a balance there because things are changing over the course of time in our community. So yeah, we're all grateful for the support we receive, but I think there's another level of accountability, right? When you give someone funds, right? How does that relationship look? Are you coming to our communities and meeting us where we are to see that impact, right? Or are you just cutting blind checks? I think there's a balance, and I think that can help bridge some gaps with philanthropy and just the nonprofits who are actually doing the work.
Thank you. Yesenia.
Yes, money is always important. You know, paying attention who is actually doing the work, and who is creating change and who's creating impact. The money that should be coming to organizations, we should be able to show the impact and the level of support that we are doing in our communities to create change, meaningful change, change that is going to last, that is not going to go away next month. And also invite us into your relationships, because it's important, the money that you're giving us, but it's also important to be part of your relationships, to be part of those conversations, that you know our values individually, right? I know that it's really intense, Karen, when we see our calendars, but also invite us into those relationships and get to know us in a more personal base. Get to know who you're funding, get to know the members who are actually doing the work, get to know the staff, be in relationship with us. That's how we're going to create change together, the organization and the institutions that are trying to create change, systemic change that actually works for everyone in an equitable way. Thank you,
Yesenia. Alex.
I think what comes to mind, two quick things. One is we need more foundations within the philanthropic community to want to fund power building and community building. And I know that some funders sort of shy away from that. So that's my first point, is we need more and more brave funders who understand that this is how we change oppressive systems. This is how we change health equity. This is how we change environmental justice. This is how we add environmental justice, whatever that theme may be that the funders are interested in. The second is trust. We need more philanthropy to trust that people of color and organizations that are led by people of color, we can solve our own problems. We don't need savior models that will dictate what we want or what we should want as people. We can solve our own problems. And with that trust comes multi-year grants. With that trust comes general operating support, because if we have that trust in that relationship, we will change our communities. We will be the change within our communities. We know what the solutions are. Our people know what they want for themselves and their families. And we just need that trust and those resources and funding to be able to do so.
Thank you all. And you all are getting in the chat lots of high fives and affirmations for what you were saying. Now we called this session about power players, but in this season of hockey tournament, hockey finals, unfortunately the Avalanche aren't there anymore. But in hockey, there's something called a power play, and that's when one team is disadvantaged by having fewer players on the ice at that time, and nobody expects them to ever score. They just want to like stop the damage and not let it get worse. But sometimes they do score. And so do you have a power play that when nobody thought you could win, you could score, but you did anyway, even though you were at a disadvantage? You have any examples of that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
For many years, the undocumented population was left out of accessing healthcare. For many years, through Obamacare, we don't have access to funding because of federal laws. And for many years, we did not do that. We, as Center for Health Progress, work for 10 years in a vision to expand access to healthcare to undocumented population. And last year, we were able to pass that in collaboration with many other organizations and many other community members. And that everybody told us that is something that you cannot do, something you cannot work. We dreamed it, community brought it to the table. Center for Health Progress saw the vision. I remember collaborating with our staff in creating the model and the campaign strategy. And we were ourselves doubted ourselves for a little bit of how are we gonna get money to fund this. And we got it done. We got it done last year. And that's not it, right? Like, we're going for more. We still have community members who do not have access to healthcare. We're going for more.
Great. That's a great story. Others?
Happy to share our story. You know, as I said, I grew up in a mobile home park community here in the Roaring Fork Valley, and I remember not trusting the water and not being able to drink our water in our mobile home park community. And for decades, we're talking 50 plus years, Latinas and Latinos and working families who live in most of the mobile home park communities up and down the Central Mountain region have had the same issues. We're getting sick. We're having hives. We have to replace boilers and appliances year after year. We're buying bottled water every single week for 50 plus years. How that contributes to global warming and all the environmental pieces, plus the human injustice of people in this country, one of the wealthiest countries of the world, still having communities where people cannot drink their water. And for the very first time, not led by organizations, but led by the very people, the residents who live in these communities for the very first time, just passed a bill this legislative session. And it will be most likely signed by the governor in the next couple of weeks so that we can begin to address this issue that has been chronic in our communities for 50 years. And we will begin to create a testing program to really understand what is happening with the water in every single park, all 889 mobile home parks around the state.
Wow.
And to really figure out how do we invest in infrastructure so that this injustice is once and for all fixed so humans can have dignified housing and drinkable water.
That's a fabulous story. Mona, you have a story?
Yeah, I have a lot of stories, but I'll pick one. One of the, I think with our Golden Girls project, which was huge, there was a population of women that we saw coming in day shelter during COVID who were middle-aged to elderly women who were unhoused, sleeping in their cars. And when we decided to create a program around that, we had no idea the impact that it was going to have or how big it was going to get. We had no idea. And now we're able, these women are coming from oncology. They're coming from just life happened. But this program is literally saving lives for our middle-aged to elderly women. And so now they can come here into our program. They get all the medical support, psychological needs. Everything is in place, all of their benefits. We case manage, make sure that happened. We had one lady who her house burnt down in California. And so she moved here to be with her daughter, but her daughter lived in low-income housing. And so with that, she wasn't able to stay there and she was headed to the homeless shelter. She found out about a Golden Girls Project program. She came here. We were able to help her with her insurance claims and everything. And so she was able to buy her own home and regain her life. So we're starting to see really amazing success stories. And, you know, with our representative payee program, we're focusing on gaps in our community where programs didn't exist. So this is, again, the community dictating to us its needs. So with the representative payee program, we found out that there were just a ton of unhoused individuals who, because of drug and alcohol issues or physical issues, could not receive Social Security benefits. They were awarded it, but they needed a payee because of mental health issues or drug and alcohol abuse. Once we started that program, we now do the entire Western Slope. 98% of them are successful and housed because we stepped up to assist them with their benefits. So yeah, those were areas that you know, no one thought would work, or maybe they didn't think this was possible, but we're seeing it happen. And again, it's taking that step of faith and being able to even empower that population as well.
That's wonderful. Cheryl, you have a story?
Yeah, I have stories, but this one's kind of twofold. I'm a ranter. I'll be all over the place. But long story short, a lot of kids don't have access to compete, right, in a competitive play opportunity because they don't have the funds to do so. Hillside Connection, I think we've done a great job at mobilizing kids who wouldn't get a chance to play, wouldn't get a chance to learn, the life skills that sports teaches you. And I know I brought up earlier in our conversation, the Hoopster Basketball League was a game changer, not only for the safe place for these kids to play and represent their local community schools and things of that nature, but in the sense that they were able to look like something and feel a part of something bigger than themselves. So shoes actually was a challenge for a lot of the kids. We didn't want them sliding all across the floors and things of that nature. And we were able to find the philanthropy to provide over 160 kids with Nike basketball shoes, boys and girls, 4th and 5th graders. And you could just see the boost in confidence, the smile on their faces. It wasn't looking at a kid who had more than them. Everybody was on an equal playing field. And that's the power of sport right there, right? So that's one of our wins, I would say, that I would like to share with the group.
That's great. And I actually know a funder who wants to fund in Colorado, just children athletic leagues and that kind of thing. So if you fit that, so someone from my team put my email in the chat. If anybody listening, your organization fits that, send it to me and I'll get it to them. We're going to run out of time soon, but I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions. What would you say to the folks that are on this call who may be wanting to start community power building, who may be stalled in their community power building? What advice would you offer them?
Identify what level of power building you want to do. Identify what level of power building you want to do. If you want to go ahead and create systemic change, identify the level of power you want to build. Get educated around the work that you want to do. Identify allies.
When you say levels, give some examples of what you mean by that, levels.
So there is power within ourselves, right? Some of the work that I hear some of my colleagues presenting today, that finding people who, supporting people who believe in themselves, right? Supporting them in their growth. The other level of power is what level of action am I willing to take with the power that I now hold, that I have? What level of action am I willing to take? Am I willing to challenge systems? Am I willing to stand up in my leadership development and challenge people who have done me wrong and who have taken away from what my community and myself deserve? Am I willing to continue spinning the wheel of my needs, or am I willing to go upstream and figure out how those systems need to be changed so this does not continue, because I'm tired of continuing fighting day to day to just get my needs met?
Great, thank you. Alex, what advice
Can
would
I
you
add?
give?
I just
Yes.
love, and Yesenia is just so inspiring, but we also think about sort of power in levels, the personal power, the community power, and the political power. And all those levels are important, and it's okay for different, we need all of those 3 layers to be done, and to be done in every community by the very people in those communities. And the only thing I'll offer is that to realize that if you're trying to do sort of community power, trying to change policies, racist ecosystems, that's also important, and that could be done through a 501c3, but also realize that sometimes to get to the big layer of political power, we can't stop just with the 501c3. We as people of color also have to get better at building infrastructure that our communities also need to be able to take that win all the way to the finish line. We need to elect people, we need to fix systems, we need to influence and inform, and we need to participate at all levels of power for people of color to see themselves reflected in the future and the visions that we want to create for ourselves. And that's why Voces Unidas decided from the very beginning to be a multi-entity organization and be able to tackle all layers of power.
Thank you, Alex. Mona, what would you say?
I would say one of the main things is remembering to keep the main thing, and not losing your passion for why you put yourself in this position to begin with. What brought you to this place now that you're ready to build on it? You're ready to take on more positions. You're ready to take on more challenges. That's our passion that drives us. And so many times that can get scattered because you get caught up in all these different things that I know for myself, I have to step back and say, Mona, are you keeping the main thing the main thing? And so when I get back to that, that's what drives me and empowers me even to press harder, to do more without burning out at the same time. There's balance. And I would always say to always make sure that you maintain that balance. And that's, I think it propels us further than it feels like a drawback, but it's not. It's going to propel you. So it's okay to step back, you know, and reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing. That's what's going to drive you.
Thank you, Mona. Terrell.
I agree with Mona's comments, you know, understanding your why. I would like to add too, you know, we all might have our own ideas, right? And understand the needs that need to be met. But when you really do your research, right, on the climate of your area, there's certain people who are already kind of doing the work. And it's okay to take a step back, to go and be in support of someone else's vision, right? To add value to what already exists to create true change. So it's not always about creating our own. How can we add value to things that are currently existing as well? I think there's a balance.
Thank you. And Mona, I am absolutely taking with me, keep the main thing the main thing. I'll give you credit the first few times I use it. And then after that, it's gonna be mine.
Go ahead.
Any final comments? And I think what I'll ask you to do is tell us what you are excited about.
I'm excited about being in a position of growth. After, you know, we've been plowing now the Joseph Center, we're going into our 8th year. And in 8 years' time, we've been able to develop 10 different programs, but now it's not about developing more programs, it's expanding on what we already have. And so I'm very excited that we can grow, which is only going to be a positive to our community. It's only going to be a positive to our guests who are participants in these programs. And to see, I'm excited to see the outcomes. I'm excited to see the fruit of all the labor that's been behind all of this. And so now I believe that with the growth that we're seeing, the impact that we're making in the community, and watching it literally take its own shape, that's exciting for me.
Great. Yesenia, what are you excited about?
So excited to win all of these campaigns that our organizing teams throughout the whole state have laid out to choose and decide on what we want to work on. I do want to go ahead and give a big shout out to my colleagues. Teresa's leading community benefit. Community is learning about community benefit and how a lot of this money can be benefiting their health, and how this money works in our state. Margaret is leading Care Over Cost, a campaign that was founded by People's Action, and is supporting community and helping community whose health insurance companies are saying and deciding what type of health that they want to get and they deserve. And community is saying, no, we are not doing that. And, you know, we have Marissa, who's leading our comms. We talked about how messaging is so important. And our community, our grassroots community is leading that effort. You know, and Perla and Andrea, who are leading the efforts and supporting, you know, interpretation in our healthcare system that is in person, around Amni Salud, you know, around the mental health that we know in Pueblo, it's a crisis, but it's all over. And they are leading those efforts. You know, Carly and Dana, who are supporting the health healthcare providers, the people who give us access to healthcare, and they're getting organized and demanding, you know, the treatment that they get, the care that we all get, that they give us, and how it needs to be equitable. And Reina, you know, a huge shout out for stepping up and supporting an organizing team and learning the landscape of how policy works and how we are change makers. So I'm excited to see these teams lead all of the campaigns that they have chosen throughout the whole state. So I'm just excited to see to our next gathering, Karen, and then bringing out, you know, all of the work that we said that we wanted to do, and we did it. So I'm excited to see the outcome of winning all of these campaigns.
Excellent. Terrell.
I'm excited to see Hillside Connection take a step in actually building a team. We've been volunteer driven for 7 years now. We work day jobs in addition to, so it's a blessing to see a program coordinator, Jalen Frank, who's from our community, who benefited from our programming, take another step in leadership. So definitely identifying the neighborhood talent, parents, kids, and things of that nature to keep push the mission, to continue to push the mission forward. I'm extremely excited to build a team finally. And I think that'll be a testament to my leadership. It's not about, you know, how much money you bring into an organization. I really believe it's about how many lives you can touch, you can influence. So how is Jayla going to speak highly of me, right? Eventually over the course of time that I help with his professional trajectory. So I'm excited to see the team component come together for us as we continue to scale our impact.
Thank you. Alex.
Thank you. You know, I'm excited and hopeful for our region in the future. I think the first generation of leaders who chose to participate with Voces Unidas have found their power and are now leading, and I have no doubt that many of them, whether it's in Leadville or Dillon or Parachute, that many of these leaders in our community will also start to build infrastructure for their own communities, for the solutions and the visions that they want for themselves. And I look forward to seeing sort of our role in that space for this sort of generation of leaders, and how we can play a part as an ally to those other organizations. In rural Colorado, we don't have the luxury of being of jealousy or being territorial. We need more, not less. We need more infrastructure, not less. And we have so many problems that we need to solve. We need more leaders to step in these leadership roles within institutions and nonprofits and create the next generation of nonprofits that are going to solve some of the challenges that we face today. So I'm just excited and hopeful for the Western Slope.
Thank you all. Thank you all, the four of you, for joining us today, for taking your time. Thanks everyone that's watching. And you certainly are four wonderful examples of people in this state who are trying to build power in their communities and be exponential in the power. So that there's four of you, and then your role and your responsibility and all of our responsibility is to make it 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. And I also know you are wonderful examples of that, but you are not the only ones in the state doing that. You've got colleagues across the entire state. Hope to see you this summer in Keystone, and everyone else, and all the power players in Keystone for our symposium this summer. And I just thank you all so very much for blessing us with your presence and with your wisdom. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.